Just when we thought we'd finished the fight, there was still some orbital drop shocking to be done in ODST. And then we were told one last mission was within reach before Bungie would spread its love across multiple platforms. And while Halo Reach is set before Master Chief's tour of duty, Spartans and their brand of combat are present and accounted for. Can this return to super soldierdom thrive without the man in green armor?
Not gonna lie to you, Lieutenant. You're stepping into some shoes the rest of the squad would rather leave unfilled.
Set just before the events of the very first Halo, Reach is all about saving the titular planet from a Covenant invasion. As one of the last strongholds of humanity and the military base of the UNSC, the planet is integral to the survival of the species. Enter Noble Six, Master Chief's equally tight-lipped predecessor. As the game begins, he joins Noble Team, an elite squadron seen as the planet's last hope to repel the invasion.
Commander.
So that's our new number 6.
What's been impressive about the Halo games to this point is that the stories have remained engaging despite never even seeing the main protagonist's face. The same holds true here. Noble Six is a mysterious figure, and it's hard to glean what lies behind the visor. This time around, your fellow Spartans are humanized. Not shy about removing their helmets, you get a great look inside what drives each one of them.
Keep still, and I'll release you.
Self-sacrifice for a greater good is a big part of the story, along with the sense of dread knowing that no matter what you do, Reach is going to fall. It's almost like watching a great documentary about a horrible event. You already know how it's going to end, but the unexpected twists and turns on the way there give you glimmers of hope, only for them to eventually be dashed. There's definitely some smart fan service to be had as the story lurches towards the Chief's debut.
No, somebody tell me this ain't happening.
UNSC frigate Grafton, do you copy?
When you first boot up the game, you're asked to create your Spartan, and the ladies have not been left out. Each soldier has a bevy of armor choices to customize their look, and as you play through the various modes, you're rewarded with ranks and points to purchase new parts that ultimately function as badges of honor. If you've played any of the prior Halo games, then you know how the 4-player co-op enabled campaign is designed. You're shuttled from one skirmish to another with plot points in between. Pacing has always been a series' strong point, and there's very little downtime in Reach. With very few ebbs and flows in the action, it can come off a bit monotone at times, even though the tone is a high-pitched shriek.
What's it saying? It's over!
We've been engaged!
We've been spoiled over the last half-decade by other shooters with varied missions and set-piece events. This is one area where the campaign in Reach falls a bit short. Your mission is to kill everything before moving on to do it again with very little deviation. At around 8 hours, the campaign almost feels like a bonus on top of an extraordinary multiplayer suite. If you thirst for the thrill of human competition, Reach will satiate. Built on Halo 3's already staggering list of options, you could conceivably spend the rest of your natural game-playing life fiddling around with it. The list of match options borders on overkill. Just about any conceivable combination of flags, vehicles, weapons, generators, teams, and terrain has already been cooked up by the chefs at Bungie. New modes that stand out include Stockpile, where you have to go out and collect flags and then return them to a zone where they have to be defended to score, and Generator Defense, where teams are split into Spartans and Elites before taking turns attacking and defending. Of course, you still get all the old classics like Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, Territories, Juggernaut, King of the Hill, and the list goes on and on. Before each match, you're given the option to vote on the map and match type, and once the timer ticks down, you're able to choose from predetermined weapon loadouts. With literally dozens of ways to play, the Enhanced Forge option that allows you to build your own maps and game types almost feels unneeded. At least if you do dive in, you'll find it to be much more user-friendly and versatile. Co-op survival modes are all the rage these days, and ODST's extremely popular Firefight option has made its way into Reach. Every bit as fun as competitive multiplayer, wave after wave of increasingly difficult enemies are shuttled your way with weapons appearing as you reach certain milestones. Taking place on 8 different maps for up to 4 players, it scales very well depending on the number of combatants. Since Reach is a prequel, we didn't expect much in the way of new weapons and technology, but we were wrong. While Bungie's take on the Hammer of Dawn doesn't exactly make sense within the context of the series, we're more than happy to use it. New enemies are scarce, but there are a lot more vehicles to pilot. We could literally talk about the design of Halo Reach for an hour. The disc is absolutely bursting with content to explore. 9 stock maps for multiplayer is a little low, but the plethora of match variants provides a fresh perspective on each one. If you look for a lot of value in your video game purchases, you can't do much better than this. With the exception of the more traditional ODST, Halo is known for its fast-paced, bullet-riddled, melee-dealing combat. If you've grown used to a burst of gunfire taking down an enemy, the full clip and then some it takes to drop the Covenant will be jarring at first. You just need to remember to lay on the trigger a little more. With a rebounding shield and an underlying health meter like the first Halo, it's all balanced, and you can even replenish health by finding terminals strewn around the levels. Weapons now have what's called targeting bloom. Basically, your aiming reticle will animate after you squeeze the trigger, letting you know when your gun has reached full accuracy potential. There's a rhythm to each weapon, and it can be tough to wait for targeting bloom before squeezing off another round, but it's another risk-reward element that adds to the strategy. There's several new additions to the arsenal, but what most will be happy to hear is that the Magnum pistol has been restored to its former glory. Meanwhile, the new weapons are hit or miss. We love the new needle rifle and the Hammer of Dawn-like target locator, while the focus rifle that shoots a devastating laser and the plasma launcher that dispels up to 4 homing grenades are too powerful in multiplayer situations. Dual wielding has been removed, but it's not missed as much as you'd think. Another new addition is armor abilities. Basically taking the place of deployables from Halo 3, you can use them over and over once they've recharged. While they're only needed on the harder difficulty settings in the campaign, in multiplayer, their usefulness can literally change second by second. The sprint is the most obvious and generally useful, but using the hologram to throw off snipers, the jetpack to reach weapons, active camo to sneak up on the enemy, and the elite-only dive roll in a variety of situations undoubtedly adds depth to the experience. The only ability we're not fond of is Armor Lock, because it creates awkward situations where you stand there waiting for the shield to die to finish an enemy off.
Lost the lead.
While spending credits to update your armor builds some incentive, it's purely cosmetic. Melee attacks have been a valuable tool in the Halo arsenal for years, but in Reach, they're weaker than ever. Landing a melee attack only removes an enemy's shield and does not touch their overall health, making it more difficult to get kills. You can also hold the melee button when approaching an enemy from behind for assassinations, but they take so long to complete that we actually prefer just using the butt of the gun. The first 2 Halos were primarily corridor shooters with a few open spaces. Halo 3 opened things up a bit, and Reach takes it even further. This facilitates much more squad-based strategy, even though you have no control over what they do. Allowing the computer to take up the main front and occupy the enemy while flanking is the easiest way to get through the harder skirmishes. Just don't count on them dropping many Covenant troops or doing a good job behind the wheel of vehicles. Enemies, on the other hand, are absolutely devilish on heroic or legendary. For all the pre-release hype built around it, space battles are an extremely small part of the game. Lacking significant challenge, they're not bad, but they're not exactly needed either. Despite all the changes, Reach still plays like a Halo game. It's frantic and each confrontation is completely unpredictable. You'll eventually grow tired of seeing one dropship after another in the campaign, and some new weapons are overpowered, but otherwise, this is the yin to Call of Duty's yang. Halo 3 was a bit of a disappointment where visuals were concerned, and ODST didn't bump things up much. Reach definitely features a noticeable improvement. The textures have heightened clarity, the environments have a lot more detail, and there are a lot more enemies on screen at a time, and overall, it just has a much more vivid display. None of this comes at the sacrifice of fluidity or enemy AI. Weapon effects are the biggest standout. The physics have also been jacked up, resulting in some entertaining multiplayer moments. That said, the game still falls a cup below the upper echelon of visual masterpieces. Some areas still come off as a bit barren, and enemy animation appears a bit robotic at times. Martin O'Donnell returns to score Reach, and the compositions are some of the most somber and subdued in series history. The music curtsies up next to the inevitable demise of the planet quite well, and manages to impart a sense of impending doom across the entire game. It's great stuff. The voice acting is solid and the script toes the line, and the Covenant no longer speak English, making them feel all the more alien. The amount of content in Halo Reach would be absolutely staggering if most of it weren't already found in Halo 3 almost 3 years ago. Even so, few other games come close to its value and overall functionality. The gameplay tweaks are many, and most hit the mark without sacrificing that Halo feeling. Now, 4 games into the series, there's no denying that the campaign is starting to lose some of its moxie, yet there's just enough revelation here for fans to cling to. But let's be honest, you're going to decide to buy based on its multiplayer component, and this is where it delivers in spades. Master Chief may be retired, but calling this a Halo game is no reach.